welcome back to another BGC from Home video with yours truly, Miss Leah. Today we are going to be learning about upcycling as we work towards the Upcycled Fashion Badge. What is upcycling? Well, I'm about to teach you all about it. We are going to learn how upcycling can incorporate into fashion. Let's do it. Alright, so upcycling is taking a product and without destroying it, turn it into something completely new. For example, this rug, you guys, was made completely out of grocery bags. That is crazy to me to think about, but really cool. Can you think of something that you can make out of just grocery bags? Think about it. A jump rope. You can make a jump rope out of grocery bags. I'm sure there's all kinds of things you can make out of grocery bags, but that was really cool, and this is a cool example of upcycling. Upcycled pieces have become way more popular now in today's fashion industry. Let's watch this video on how one designer takes wearable pieces and upcycles them to create a whole new product.
This clothing line in Brooklyn, New York turns fabric scraps into fashion.
We take textile scraps that are completely irregular shapes and we stitch them back together to create a new flat textile that you can make anything out of.
Designer Daniel Silverstein started Zero Waste Daniel in 2015 after years of designing a high-end fashion line.
I was sick of making cocktail and evening dresses. I was so stressed out designing all the time, and I just thought, like, this isn't helping anybody. So I decided to close down my studio in the city, and I just had a lazy afternoon of packing up, and I had been collecting all of these textile scraps for years, and I had these two giant bags of fabric scraps, and I threw this bag on the ground and it spilled open, and I saw all of this really awesome fabric, and I thought, I have nothing to do today. Why don't I make a shirt for myself? So I did, and I put it on Instagram. All of a sudden, people started asking me, like, oh, are you doing menswear now? Oh, this is really cool. How much are these? Can I get one? And I was like, oh, this is it. And I started Zero Waste Daniel.
Over 20 billion pounds of textiles are thrown away in the US every year. Each piece by Zero Waste Daniel uses about 1 pound of rescued textile waste. Twice a month, Daniel and his team travel to a cutting room where they pick up fabric scraps.
Look at that. This is like what Emily was asking for. It's a giant bundle. Oh yeah. Cool. Okay. When factories are producing fashion, everything gets laid out on what's called a marker. So the different pattern pieces have to go in different directions, they have different sizes and shapes, and what the industry tries to do is lay everything out so there's as little waste as possible. I like to think about it like making cookies. You use the cookie cutter to make them as close together as possible. But when you're making cookies, what you would do is take all the leftovers and roll them back together and roll them out again and cut more cookies. In the fashion industry, we take all those leftover like little pieces and we just throw them away. And that adds up to millions of tons of textiles every year in the States alone. And so what I wanted to do was create a process where we could ball everything up, roll it back out, and make new fabric. And so I created what I call re-roll.
So even when we're cutting off small pieces like this, we could sew it again like this, cut it here, it'll be another piece and we'll just add more scraps to it. So as we make things farther along in the process, they become more complex.
Worldwide, garment workers face tough working conditions and low wages. That's why Silverstein makes it part of his mission to pay his team fair wages and to manufacture everything in his store.
I want to be able to say to people, this is Emily. She's 25, she lives in New York, and she is super passionate about climate change, and she deserves a living wage. She made this shirt. And I think that that's a really important thing for people to understand. It's not, why isn't this less expensive? It's, this is why this costs this much.
T-shirts start at $55. No two items are ever the same, and customers can order custom pieces in-house.
If you don't see it hanging on the rack, you can have it made out of the textiles that we have in stock, and it can be made right in front of you and ready within an hour. Being a part of positive change and leading by example doesn't have to look less than cool. You can be edgy, fashion forward, comfortable. You can do all of the things you want and get everything you want out of fashion and still do it ethically.
All right, we're coming back from that video. Now that you've watched that video, would you wear any of those pieces that the designer created? And this designer took scraps and all sorts of different fabric and upcycled it to create something really cool. So think about it. Would you wear any of those pieces? All right, so now that we have an idea of what we're doing with upcycling in fashion, let's do our own research with the attached research guide. So let's get into it. All right, so hopefully you are finishing up your very own upcycling research guide where you just have to select a product or a brand, a designer or a brand, and then answer the research questions. This is always fun. So I'm just gonna kind of go over quickly kind of who I selected. So my designer or brand was Urban Outfitters because when I was growing up, Urban Outfitters was the bee's knees. And then it asked, what kind of products does this designer or brand promote or sell or produce? So Urban Outfitters, they are a clothing company, but they also do furniture, accessories, but primarily it's clothing. So you wanna first figure out your designer or brand, and then you wanna research what they produce. All right, so the next question, the next research question is, what are they passionate or committed to? So what are they passionate about? What are they committed to? So Urban Outfitters was created originally in 1970, but it really came to fruition in 1983. And they have a commitment to upcycling. So their mission is sustainability and doing what is eco-friendly. So in that, they began to upcycle furniture pieces, clothing items, etc. So I thought that was really cool. And then what is one interesting fact about the designer or brand that you selected? So for me, I did not know this, so this is pretty cool, that Urban Outfitters is also Free People and Anthropology. No idea. I thought these were completely separate things, and I love all of those lines, so I thought that was really cool. So what was really cool about the designer or brand you chose? All right, so let's plan our very own upcycled project. So using a piece of paper and pencil or marker, or if you want to use a digital program like Paint, you are going to sketch out what you can create from an upcycled t-shirt. The beautiful thing is, you guys, is you can take that mood board we created in the previous activity and use that as inspiration for what you want your design sketch to look like. All right, so now I am ready to sketch out what I'm going to create from the upcycled t-shirt. I got my mood board, got my paper, got my pencil, and now it's time to just sketch it out. So here we go. All right, so now that we've got our sketch ready, let's do a little reflecting. So, how do you feel about upcycled fashion? Okay, I heard some good things in there. I feel like upcycled fashion is pretty dope. I think it's really cool, it's innovative, and it's creative. Another great reflection question, would you or your friends wear an upcycled fashion piece? I definitely would. I know that I already have, just because I shop at Urban Outfitters, so which we kind of talked about. So I have, and I would, again, wear an upcycled piece. I think it's pretty cool. And then the last reflection question is, what effect do you think upcycled fashion can have on your community? That's actually a really good question. And I think it has all kinds of answers to that question. So I think for sustainability, right? So for recycling, for planet, for eco-friendly purposes, upcycled fashion is pretty cool. And also depending on maybe the surrounding communities or community where you're at, if maybe there are those who are less fortunate, you can always take something that you already have. Let's say you need a new top for the school dance, right? And maybe mom and dad are saying they're not gonna get you one, or maybe they're not able to just yet. You can take that t-shirt you have in your room, cut it up, tie it up, bedazzle it, and boom, you got a brand new shirt. So that's another really great thing that it can do for someone in the community. I think there's all sorts of really cool things that upcycled fashion can do for them. All right, you guys, you know what time it is. Make sure you save and submit your sketch so that you can earn a star towards the upcycling fashion badge, you guys. It's Today was a really fun activity. I feel like we learned a lot today. We're gonna keep on learning. Thank you so much for joining me. Before I go, just remember, great futures start here. Ta-ta.